Okay, dear colleagues, educational media and political activism. This is the title of my short talk, and it is a timely and up-to-date topic. While 10 years ago, on the occasion of the first Public History Weekly conference, I reported on attempts to ban already published school history textbooks by means of political activism. Today, I report on political activism to develop new school history textbooks and educational media. And no, I'm not talking today about the new school history textbooks in Russia, where Putin has been spreading his alternative reality and his own interpretation of history since 1989. Nor am I talking about the new textbooks that the government of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador is currently distributing across Mexico. This dispute is polarizing this country. Today, I'm reporting on everyday political activism in Switzerland, which you also could call political activity, but the border between activism and activity, as you mentioned it in your talk, seems also to me quite fluid. I want to show that, firstly, the public and the politicians see school educational media and history textbooks as a miracle cure. Secondly, characteristic features of educational media are often not taken into account enough, and that is why expectations of great effects of educational media are often disappointed. And thirdly, such development process of school educational media should be designed as design experiments in order to match demands from the public and the politics with those from science and practice. My first point, history school textbooks seen as a miracle cure. A number of positive effects are attributed to dealing with history. In our study, Why History Education, which will be published in a fortnight, we can show that teachers aim for very different things with history education. Some want to tell it like it was. That often leads to this single narrative that we were talking about. Others want to introduce young people to the scientific approach to the past and teach them critical thinking and multi-perspectivity. Still others want to give the opportunity for differentiation of identities or build a very specific identity, for example, national identity, as mentioned also in my introduction. And for many, history is the teacher for the present and the future. All these hoped-for effects awaken the desire to develop educational media for schools on selected questions and problems. And many then come to us at the Institute of History Education and Memory Cultures at the Lucerne University of Teacher Education with their wish. In order to illustrate the public's great expectations of school-based education, I have chosen two examples from different areas of societal meaning formation, namely economics and politics. The first example is that economic policy asked for Swiss economic history to be taught better and more intensively. Representatives from the economic world think that in the classroom this is almost exclusively done in the 19th century, which is not enough. So the Swiss National Bank approached us with a question of what possibilities there were for teaching economic history in a contemporary way and with modern media. We developed then case studies and in a video book, and you will find it in the internet if you are looking for that, Economics, Wirtschaftsgeschichte. The second example, an analysis of current curricula shows that security and safety are not topics in the social sciences, even though security and safety are social needs. With the start of the Russian war of aggression in Ukraine, however, the topic has now become more relevant. various people responsible for social security and safety issues, from the army, from police, from the fire brigade, disaster control, or cybercrime, have approached us with the question of what possibilities there are to develop an educational medium on these topics. These two examples make it clear how great the expectations of educational media are, and from what different environments the wishes for new educational media history textbook come. These numerous requests and projects, which are often supported with a lot of money, create a large oversupply. Schools do not have that much time in the classroom to realize the many educational offers that have arisen. Many attractively presented teaching materials often do not even find their way into school. This also has to do with the fact that the committed initiators know too little about the characteristic features of educational media and think of their concern exclusively in terms of what is on offer. In such cases, the goal is usually missed. The hoped-for effects fail to materialize. Educational media gather dust on the shelves or are lost in the digital space. That leads me to my second point, characteristics of educational media. Educational media serve education. And for this to succeed, it is not enough to develop an attractive and relevant offer. Although this perspective is undoubtedly important, because otherwise the attention of potential users cannot be attracted, it is only one of three different perspectives. For education to be successful, students must be able to appropriate what is offered. Such appropriation is only successful if the learners realize that what is offered has something to do with them. In this way, they become active themselves and differentiate their knowledge and skills as well as their attitudes. Education succeeds when the students internalize the subject matter. Educational media must provide impulses for this, set tasks, and offer space for self-constructed things. Those who develop educational media must not think of the development exclusively from the point of view of the subject matter and from the learning object. From the very beginning, it is important to take students into account and also to consider learning in the community, in the school classes. This is where the processes of acquisition are supported, reinforced, secured, put into perspective, and if necessary, corrected through communication with fellow learners and teachers. So in addition to A, the offer, and B, the appropriation, educational media also creates C, space for communication. Thanks to digitality, many additional possibilities have arisen in recent years to design educational media. Offer, appropriation, and communication have been raised to a new level. Today, hybrid teaching materials with a sensibility, coordinate, and combination of analog and digital components that complement each other to form a new whole are considered convincing from a didactic point of view. These new possibilities of digitality have considerably expanded the spectrum of educational media. In addition to printed material, apps, explanatory films, video games, podcasts, websites, and much more enrich education today, which makes the work of projects for the development of new educational media more attractive, but also more challenging, because, as mentioned above, the interweaving of the analog and the digital is becoming more complicated, and because specialists have to call in for the development of the respective genre. Building a video game requires different skills than realizing a podcast. Of course, the form of educational media, as just explained, plays a central role today, but even more important is still the determination of the topic. If you come up with content such as security and the safety policy or economic history, you have to find a perspective under which this content becomes a relevant, exemplary topic for an educational medium. At the same time, the topic should have educational potential for knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behavior. It has to be examined whether the topic contributes to a competent approach to history, a responsible approach to society, and a reflective approach to oneself, which is, in a nutshell, outlines history education today. Balancing these different demands is challenging and will not succeed if the initiators of an educational medium concentrate exclusively on the offer and lose sight of appropriation and communication. So I come to my third point, development of educational media with a design experiment. Educational media are products of a cooperation of different people from the most diverse disciplines and environments, often from politics, economy, science, and practice, which requires the trusting and good cooperation. At the Institute of History Education and Memory Cultures, we try to balance these wishes, these demands on the different participants and affected parties by means of so-called design experiments. After a request to develop a new teaching tool, we first organize an exploratory meeting. It could also be in a garden, as you explained it. This was really a nice metaphor for that. At this meeting, the initiators in this example, those responsible for society, for safety and security in society, for example, present their concerns, and we present the entire range of possible educational offers, from classic print products to video games. Then, in a second step, we developed a rough concept, the educational medium. The rough concept includes thoughts on the initial situation, on possible basics, on the form, on the workload and costs, of course, and this in several variations. It becomes clear at this stage that both digital and printed offerings are to be developed. Further, experts must be consulted. On the one hand, specialized publishers of print teaching materials with the established contacts in the school environment. And on the other hand, a web agency, for example, that is motivated and able to design and realize interactive website with expanded functions. Based on the concept, a variant decision is made together with all partners, and detailed concept is then developed on this basis. This is normally a hard work of balancing the different wishes of the different stakeholders in a certain topic. As soon as this is approved, the actual development work can begin. From the very beginning, parts of the educational medium are tested and tried out with representatives from the practical field and from the target levels. This always leads to improvements, even when the feedback is diametrically opposite. The feedback also serves to strengthen one's own convictions and considerations. Only after multiple trials is the educational medium published. But even then, the work is not done. No following, advertising, publicity, and launching in practice. Our experience shows that educational media only find their way into school practice if they are publicized with accompanying events, such as further education courses or lectures at the universities. This example makes it clear that the development of education media is a design experiment that takes place in a cyclical process to balance these different wishes from the public and the politics with those from science and practice. However, it should also be noted that even a successful balancing of the various demands by no means guarantees success. Only in the end, in everyday practice, does it become clear whether the educational medium works, and good is what works.